So anytime we're doing some calculations, we want to always remember the order of operations and bed mass. Okay, the more powerful operations are done first and the addition subtraction done last. So here we want to show steps, and this is very important that you're showing the steps, every single step of this process. And what's important is that you need to make sure that you're showing all the parts that do not get calculated. Okay, so here the first part is going to be the bracket part, so we can see that the plus 3, the 6 times, the divide by 3, minus 7, they are all kept track of in the next line. So the next step is going to be the times 6 times 9 divided by 3. Now, because times and divide don't have a particular order, we can actually do divide 3 and then times 6. Okay, or we can do times 6 divide 3. So this is going to be equal to, oops, I'm going to change colors here. So this will be equal to 3 plus 54 divided by 3 minus 7. So I'll do the divide next. Minus 7. Again, make sure you're keeping track of all the parts that you're not doing. And so add and subtract are done, doesn't matter the order. So we're going to end up with 21 minus 7. So we end up with 14. Okay, so it's important to understand the order of operation has to do with the relative power of these functions. Okay, now I did say that times and divide, it doesn't really matter which order we do it in. However, there is a situation where this can be problematic. Okay, and this is why we're going to stop using this divide sign pretty soon, because it ends up becoming a bit of a problem when it comes to bed mass. So I just want to talk about something that some people think is a rule, but is definitely not a rule. Okay? And this is this rule here that left to right. Okay? And there is no such rule as left to right. It is bed mass. There's no left to right rule. So because there's no left to right rule, this calculation actually is a big problem. Okay? Because this it's hard to, you get different results depending on if you do the times first or the divide first. So technically we should be able to do all our times before at the same time as our divide. So if I do 5 times 2, so I get 50, and then I get 10. And I should be allowed to do this, okay, because times and divide, it shouldn't matter which order I'm doing it in. So 50 divided by 10 is equal to 5. Okay, so this should be a perfectly valid solution, okay, because it should not matter which order I do times or divide. But notice that if I do the divide first, we end up with a different answer. So if I do 50 divided by 5, okay, I'm going to end up with 10, and then times 2, I end up with a different answer of 20. Now this should not happen, okay, and this is a reason why this divide sign can be a problem. These do not match, okay, and they should. So some people say, well, Mr. Lin, we should do divide by 5 first because it comes first, and then we do the times 2 after. There's no rule that ever says that. We should not think that this is a rule. Okay, the problem is actually in this divide sign, because is this divide telling us to divide all of this, or is it telling us that this is a times 2 and a divide 5? Okay, now technically we should really think of this as a times 2. So we should times with this and divide with 5. If we do the times first, what ends up happening is, and notice what happens here, if I do the times first, I'm really implying that I'm actually dividing by 2 and not timesing by 2. So this is a bit of a problem here. Okay, so we want to start avoiding this divide, okay, because we run into these problems like this. It's probably better to use this as times 2 rather than divide by 2, okay, since it does say times. But this is a problem with this divide sign, is that it can be ambiguous, which means that we can interpret it in two ways. And there is no rule that says left to right. There's no rule that says we should do this operation first, this one first, because it shows up first when I'm reading it, like a book, left to right, and this one comes second when I'm reading it. There's no rule such as that. Okay, so because of this issue that we run into, this problem, we are going to stop using that in the next little while. Okay, that divide sign is actually a bit of a problem. Okay, so we're going to continue to use it for now, and we're rarely going to run into that problem. And if we do, we will accept both answers. But again, we want to try to start avoiding that divide sign because it doesn't make it clear whether I'm dividing by that 2 or timesing by that 2. Okay, because we really should be able to do this first and then divide, okay, which gives us an answer that's different. Okay, so this one here, let's do our steps. Again, the important part is showing our steps, so we're going to do brackets first. So we're going to do the times first. Okay, we'll do the plus after. And again, everything that's not done is kept track of on every line. So we're going to divide by 30 and then minus 5. So we're going to divide by 30 because it's our order of operations. We do divide before subtract. So we end up with 2 minus 5. So our final answer becomes -3. Okay. So here, this is a much simpler divide because this times 3 we know is in the denominator, so it's divide. Okay, so and this new times 4 is in the numerator, so we know it's times. So this is much better to use divide as a fraction like this. So I'm going to do my times first. 15 minus 27. So here I end up with, on top, I end up with 24. 15 minus 27 gives us -12. Positive divided by negative is equal to negative. 24 divided by 12 is equal to 2. So we end up with -2. Here are brackets first. So -4 plus 20. We get a 16. Divide by -4. And again, we want to make sure that we keep track of it. If we don't use that -4, that's the most important part to keep track of. Positive divided by negative is negative. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay. These two questions look the same, but the brackets are in different places here. So here we're going to divide first. So we're going to end up with -16 minus -8 divided by 2 is -4. So we're going to subtract a negative, which means add. So we start at -16 and we'll go to the right 4. So we're going to end up at -12. Here we're going to do the subtraction first. So we do -16 minus negative, which really means plus. So I'm going to end up with -8. Okay, so I start at 16 and go right 8. Then I'm going to divide by 2. So -8 divided by 2 leaves me with -4. So if I have two groups of -4, I end up with -8.